amplify on Johnny's comments a little bit. I'm not an expert in catastrophe planning. That's Jesse's world, and so he's going to give you the specifics about how you do that. I want to talk a little bit today about growth. So the first statement is growth happens, and we have met the enemy and they are us. 2/3 of growth in Utah is natural increase. It's our kids and our grandkids. So as you're thinking about managing the facilities in your counties, you're going to have growth, mostly. There may be a few counties that don't have any growth, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But you should assume you're going to have growth. You're going to have more buildings, more facilities, more infrastructure. The people who are here are not going to be the same people who are here now. We know that the diversity is increasing in Utah. We're going to have a lot more diverse populations. Water and air are limiting factors, and so when you manage your buildings and your facilities, working towards protecting the air quality and finding ways to be frugal with water use are going to be important. The question for all of us who are in public service is, how do we provide the services, the water, the sewer, the police, the fire, the buildings, etc., for twice as many Utahns in 30 years without destroying our environment and our quality of life? So I'm going to talk a little bit about growth and some of those questions, but those are difficult questions to answer. This is a little bit about the past, the present, and the future. Much of what we have is aging and in need of repair, and I don't need to tell you that, but just a couple of examples. Recent estimates are that there are as many as 200,000 unreinforced masonry buildings along the Wasatch Front. Most of those are homes. Unreinforced masonry doesn't perform well in an earthquake. So there are 200,000 potential death traps along the Wasatch Front if we ever have that big one that is being predicted. Interestingly enough, even our infrastructure is aging. Salt Lake City Public Utilities still has wooden water pipes in the ground in some parts of the city that are still functioning, and so they're still using them. But those eventually are going to have to be replaced. Question is, as our population increases, the road miles, pipe sections, feet of power line, number of buildings, all of that is going to have to increase. And so the question is, how do we fix what we have inherited? How do we build what we need now? And how do we plan for the future? And we have to make it all safe, secure, and resilient. And that's a difficult task. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm not going to tell you how to plan for a catastrophe. I'm going to leave that to Jesse. Okay? I am going to talk about growth. How are we doing? What is our role in preserving our quality of life? And I'm going to encourage you to plan for the future. I'm going to tell you at the very end about a couple of resources that are out there and available to you that might be useful and help you to do some of this. And then I'm going to encourage us all to make everything safe, secure, and resilient again, as we said. So, got two logos at the bottom: Envision Utah, which is a public-private partnership, Quality Growth Commission, which I represent, is a state agency. About 15 years ago, a quality growth strategy for the 10 counties around the Wasatch Front was implemented. This was an effort to try to identify where we were, think about where we wanted to go, and then track that over time. Originally, we were going to go to 2020, but we've seen such rapid growth and such rapid change in the last 15 years that we've decided to think about, or we decided to start a new process so that by 2020 we'll have a new vision in place and a new strategy in place. And so I just want to show you some of the things that we've learned from that process over the 15 years. And remember, this is mostly in the Salt Lake City metro region, the 10 counties around it. The new effort that we're engaged in at the insistence of the state is going to be a statewide effort. So we're going to be looking everywhere for the same kinds of information. So the 10 county population was 1.7 million people in 1998. In 2013, it was 2.3 million. By 2020, we estimate that 10 county population will be 2,007. Just to give you, and I left an S off of that. I apologize for those who were correcting my spelling. I'll acknowledge that I missed an S on that analysis. This is interesting. The growth strategy has had some effect on how we grow. So the black line there shows that the pre-strategy, the trend was that from 1997 to 2020, we would consume a total of about 695 square miles in that 10-county region that would be developed. As a result of the things that we've done with the growth strategy, in 2013, we're at 459, and we expect to only go to 494. What that means is that about 200 square miles of land that might otherwise have been consumed by 2020 will not, because of the things that we did. What was the factor that caused that? We think there are lots of factors. A recession, 2 recessions, changes in the economy, etc. But one of the most interesting ones is this. The size of the lots for houses in that 10-county region has gone down from 0.32 acres in 1997 to 0.25 acres in 2013. That means that it takes less water to water the grass, takes less road miles that have to be maintained and managed. It takes a variety of things that have, so as we've grown, we've shrunk some of those the size of things. But that does change a person's lifestyle. And it makes preserving parks and open space and some of those things where people might want to go and recreate more important if their backyards are a little smaller. So an interesting set of challenges and trade-offs in every planning decision that we make. Water consumption, this is the most interesting one, and this also has to do with the lot sizes going down. 1998, we were using 319 gallons per person per day in Utah. The strategy was we were going to get that down to 279 gallons per day. But in 2013, we were actually 40 points below that. We're down to 240 gallons per day, a 25% reduction. So all of you are thinking about saving water. This is the same kind of thing we've got to do if we're going to meet our growth challenges as we continue to grow. And that's why I'm telling you about growth. Growth is important for everybody as citizens, but particularly for those of us in public service. We've got to continue providing these services with relatively small budgets. And so finding ways to save water is going to be a positive thing. Transportation, vehicle miles of travel. 1998, the average person traveled 25.1 miles per day. That was the estimate. And the estimate was that by 2020 that would increase. But actually in 2013 we've gone down 1 mile. Again, that's largely gasoline prices, recessions, etc., and that's starting to turn around again. But it's interesting to see how those things impact the uses of vehicles and other things. And as you're thinking about the facilities, all of these kinds of things are going to have impacts on what you do. Are you in a recession? Are you in an economy that's providing you a lot more money than you might otherwise have had? Are you using your facilities and your resources efficiently and effectively over time as we grow? Also, another part of that is that we have 150,000 bus boardings a day, transit boardings a day in that 10-county region, and that replaced 110,000 cars that were on the road. Yes?
Did you have a goal for that?
We did. I don't have it on this slide, but I think it was actually higher than that. And the assumption was we were going to do more than that. But this is quite, it's had an effect. But we had it, there's another slide we're coming to here that will talk a little bit more about that, and I'll show you that in a minute. This is the one I was going to show you. So this shows you what we've done with regard to transit in that region. 140 miles of rail have been added. And I should tell you that that's more than any place in the country. More than New York, more than Chicago, more than Los Angeles, more than Philadelphia, you name the city. Nobody's built that many miles of rail in the last 15 years. And to our credit, we built all of that under budget and quicker than we anticipated we would build it. The last the Draper line, which opened last year, wasn't scheduled to be open until the end of 2015. And that was the last one we built. Now there's, the airport line was supposed to open this year and it opened last year. So we tend to be quite good at building rail, building it inexpensively, and building it quicker than we anticipated we would do it. But our strategy said we should have 700,000 people living within half mile of a rail stop. And in 2013, it's only 195,000. So that's largely because while we've made some changes to the way people have begun to think about living differently, I think in 1997, we anticipated a lot more growth in high-rise apartments and that sort of thing right next to rail stops. And while some of that has happened, it hasn't happened as quickly. And we've come to understand that we're probably not going to get there. But people really do like to have individual homes. And so we see the lot sizes being shrunk down because people can't afford the big, the cost of big lots. But we're not seeing as many apartments being built. So we have to figure out how to, as we reconfigure this strategy going forward, we have to figure out what impacts that's going to have on transit and a variety of other things. Mostly I'm giving you this information just to show you that where we are and what's happening. This is an interesting one too. We always talk a lot about air quality, but the interesting part here is that in 2002, in the 10-county region, we were releasing 409,000 tons of criteria pollutants. That's the 6 pollutants that the EPA tracks per year into the airshed. By 2013, that had gone down to 217,500 tons. So we've cut that, the emissions already in half, or nearly in half. We still have a long way to go, and people still don't like to live here sometimes when it's in the summertime and we have bad air. And sometimes we think about how terrible our air quality is. But we have a lot to be proud of with regard to what we've done to improve air quality over the last 15 years. This is one I think is really important for all of us in public service. This was an interesting study that was done by a man named Manuel Pastor at the University of Southern California. He was looking at growth and whether or not growth in communities really did float all boats. And Utah was basically the only place in the country where it did. Earnings went up in every sector, both the high wage, the medium wage, the low wage, and they actually went up more in the low wage and the medium wage than they did in the high wage. And the same is true for the number of jobs. And he indicated that he didn't know what it was, and he's doing additional research, but that we need to try to work on retaining that. That's something that we in the public sector can be proud of, but we need to try to keep that up to make sure that we're helping people in all stratas of society as we grow, and that we're not letting growth become something that benefits only a small group of people in our community. So, this is a statewide number. The last one was a 10-county number. So in 1998, statewide, our population was 2.1. Now it's about 2.9. The 10-county number that we saw before left out some of the regions that you represent. It didn't talk about Washington County, didn't talk about Cache County, didn't talk about Iron County. So that's where that extra population comes from. We're estimating in the governor's office in 30 years' time, well, a little more than 30 years' time, 35 years, that the population will double to 5.4 million. So the real key for us then is, what all of us is, what do we do to maintain the level of service and the level of quality of life that we have and still take care of twice as many people. And that's the challenge going forward. And then we also have to think about what happens when there's a wildfire, what happens when there's an earthquake, what happens when there's a flood. We all understand that all of that other stuff changes if we have a natural disaster or some, God forbid, some terrorist attack or whatever. Interestingly enough, this is what the population will look like. A lot more people of color, a lot more people of mixed race. Based on the best projections from the University of Utah, they're telling us that diversity will escalate significantly in the next 35 years. So the people that we serve in public service now are not going to be the same people that will be served by the public servants in 2035. They're going to be our kids and our grandkids, but we're seeing a lot more mixed race couples, a lot more people coming in who are from other countries who are immigrants of various types, and their children are going to be here. And so it's going to be a very different state than we have now. So the current effort is called Your Utah, Your Future. And there are going to be a lot of opportunities for people to participate. We, of course, want to hear from public servants of all kinds, and so hopefully you'll participate when you hear about those and get that information to you. So, just to give you a sense, I've talked a little bit about it, and you've seen the statistics, but I find that a picture's worth 1,000 words. This is one of the resources that we talked about selling the need for more infrastructure, more buildings, etc. A picture is worth 1,000 words. So this is Virtual Utah. It's a project of Utah State University's Earth GIS lab. What they did was they took satellite photographs of Utah from the 1970s, the 1990s, and the 2000s, and they superimposed them over each other so that you can look at, and you can go in and draw a box and look at any part of your community and see visually the changes. So let me give you some examples. This is what Harriman looked like in the mid-1990s. And that's Harriman today. Or that's 2006. This is 10 years later. You can see the change in just 10 years. So anyone from Washington County here? Okay, so here's Washington. Next several will be Washington County. So this is northeast St. George in the mid-1990s. That's northeast St. George in 2006. This is Santa Clara in the mid-1990s. 10 years later, 2006. Ivans, 10 years later. Begin to actually see the impact of growth on the ground using this tool. Anybody from Box Elder County here? Okay, so here's Perry. And all the little black dots you see right up here and all in here, those are orchards.
Were orchards.
They were, that's exactly right. Now that these streets all bear the names of the fruits that used to grow there. But there aren't many trees remaining. Okay? This is Orangeville. Now this one, I don't know if we got any Emory County people there. Okay. This is included in here to demonstrate that not every community grew, and that there might be different sets of challenges in some counties. So this is Orangeville in 1990. That's Orangeville in 2006. Not a major change. Okay? So Virtual Utah is one of those that can help you as you do some of that work, if that's something you want. Somebody have a question? Sorry about that. All right, so what are the conclusions we draw from that? Utah's a great place. Our quality of life is unsurpassed. Our future looks bright. We have challenges. Facilities managers, in fact, all Utahns should care about the communities that you serve now and in the future. And then let me personally thank you for the work that you do in the counties and the communities that you serve. Because I know, as a public servant, that we all work hard and we all do important jobs that are often unsung. So I'm going to give you some kudos now. So what are the tasks that we have? Again, we have to maintain what we've inherited. Much of it is old and in need of replacement. Resources will continue to be scarce. We don't live in a state where we believe in increasing taxes every year. Okay? So we're not going to have huge amounts of resources. We've got to figure out how to do more with less. We have to build what we need now. We have to provide the critical services, and we have to save and protect the lives and livelihoods of our citizens. And we have to plan for the future, including new technologies. A big future equals big challenges. We need to be prepared for catastrophe. We need to be resilient, which equals ready to come back stronger than we were. Okay? And then I want you to remember that sometimes crap hits the fan. Okay? So, the wind blows, snow falls, rivers flood, things catch fire. Earthquakes, floods, and fires are rare but deadly events that can disrupt all the progress we're making with regard to growth. Planning is a key part of that, being prepared and understanding what the issues are and the course we have to take to recover. So, we must know where we want to go and how we want to get there. That's the purpose of planning for catastrophes. And this is what I call Alice in Planning Land. So, Cheshire Puss, said Alice, would you tell me please which way I ought to go from here? That depends a good deal on where you want to go, said the cat. I don't much care where, said Alice. Then it doesn't matter which way you go, said the cat. So long as I get somewhere, Alice explained. You're sure to do that if you only walk long enough, said the cat. And that's true in every situation. Whichever direction we walk is the direction we're going to go. And so if we don't know where we want to go, don't know what the issues are, we're going to have some trouble. So here's a few resources that I'd like to kind of give you a chance to maybe look at. These are available on our website, which is planning.utah.gov. We had a lot more resources on our website until recently, and when we changed service providers on our system, some of the resources were lost, so we're in the process of reconstructing our website. But these are some of the ones that are there. So this 2000, oh, that's not going to let me go there directly. Okay, so we have this. Let me just go one more, and then we'll just go to that directly. The last slide is just my contact information, which I think you've got. What does that say? I'm trying to push okay, but I'm not very good sideways with this. Come on. Maybe I got there. Okay. All right, good. So this is 5 years earlier, but there's some really interesting material in this report regarding some of the things that we have talked about. There are sections on air quality, there are sections on land use, demographics, water, but there's one in particular that I like, and that's a land use section that has, it looks at county by county at land based on the 2008 trends, at the kind of land that will be available and the use, the consumption of land. So you can look at each county and decide if we can, this is where we want to go. So look, this is the statewide agricultural versus developed land in 2005, and then the estimate is by 2030 is about that much. But that also has this, there's a county by county, that's part of the executive summary. If you get down to the land use section, there's actually a county by county chart on that. So here we are. This is the projected development. That shows county by county. This is the 2005 numbers, how many acres were developed versus how many were in agriculture. Some of this might be useful in terms of as you're looking at your projections. That's why I suggested that was a useful tool. This is not going to be quite as useful perhaps for close this to get back to it. So this is the planning.utah.gov page. Couple of, if you go into resources, the ones I wanted you to look at were the land use ordinance library. This is we put together a section, oh, that's not the one. That's state land use plans. That might be interesting, but that's not the one I was looking for. So land use library. This is a collection of land use ordinances from local governments around the state by category. So if you want to look at infrastructure, you want to look at a variety of things, what various other communities have done, the kind of thing that you could use some of that. If you look at infrastructure and transportation, roads, construction standards, water requirements, stormwater management, that sort of thing. Oh. So you can look at, it shows you the condition, the culinary water system, for example, or irrigation systems. And then this is the actual ordinance. We found this is the piece that is most useful to planners and others because many people have to help rewrite their ordinances or whatever, and this gives you a place to start. Sometimes that's the hardest part. Just one other one, and then I'll let you look at them. This is the Automated Geographic Reference Center, the state of Utah. This is the land use planning section of what they call MapServe. AGRC has all of the geographic data that's been collected by the state is online at AGRC. That's Automated Geographic Reference Center. But this is a land use viewer that has a whole bunch of things like where are canals and water pipes, where they have that information, where are buildings located, where's prime agricultural soil, so just a whole bunch of layers of information about every community in Utah that's been collected by the state. And it's available for you to put in an address or go in and draw circles on the map, a variety of things, to come up with geographic information about your communities that is already available that the taxpayers have paid for, so you're welcome to use that information. And that might be something that would be very useful for you as you do some of your planning. Then I think I'll just take any questions if anyone has any and leave Jesse some more time. The one other thing I would point out is that the state has a couple of others and they're on there. One is the Seismic Safety Commission has written a pamphlet called Putting Down Roots in Earthquake Country. It's got a lot of information. That's available online, and there's a link at the end of my presentation, which I think you have a paper there that will show you where that is. And then there's also, of course, the Be Ready Utah site, which is a site that the Lieutenant Governor and the Governor's offices have put together in conjunction with the Department of Public Safety to help everyone in Utah be prepared for disaster. And so since that's what you're here for, I would refer you to that one as well. Any questions about anything we talked about, any of the growth-related issues? Yeah.
I was wondering what happened with the result of the quake thing analysis the governor did last year, where everybody did that quake day and stuff. Did they get the results from
Now tell me what it was again.
that? We had a shakeout.
The shakeout.
Oh, the Great Shakeout?
Yes.
Jesse will tell you about that, okay? He's going to encourage you to participate in it again this year, and he's got that information. I don't have, I'm volunteering you for that, Jesse. I hope you have that information.
Have it covered.
Okay, so he'll talk about that.
And another one was when we have quakes in our buildings and stuff, they show effects afterwards.
That's right.
And some of the insurance requires to be right now. This is probably more for our diesel guys. What is covered afterwards? Because buildings settle after earthquakes. Sometimes it takes as much as 2 or 3 years for it to actually settle.
So you don't have immediately all the information about what the damage is.
And same with floods too. Floods can have a residual effect that carries on years after.
it's important to know that and to be watching for that if that damage as it might occur. Because you're right, I mean, lots of these kinds of disasters can have that impact. We don't ever know what the impact is going to be of a major wildfire until it's over. And, you know, and the land cover changes. Anything else? Thank you for having me here, and I hope that some of the information I gave you was interesting and useful. It's my pleasure to be with you.
If you've read the bio, I retired out of the fire service after 29 years. I was an arson investigator. And in the process of that career, which I absolutely loved, and if I was 30 years younger, and I know I'm getting hurt more retired than I am when I was working as a fireman, I would do the career over again because I loved helping people. But I would tell you some of the biggest highlights of responding to 2 and 3 alarm fires in a commercial zone, middle of the night, rainy spring evenings, was a facilities maintenance manager. They were always there with the key because I think you guys just hated to see us cut those locks off. And we would just live to cut those locks off. We'll take our saws and cut those doors and we'd get anywhere we want. We were a perfect burglar because nobody would question us getting in. So I would just extend a thank you to you guys, how fast you hustle in the middle of the night with no red lights and siren. Get there, get places opened up, ask you the questions, where are the shutoffs, where are the gas relays, and guess what? Right on autopilot, you guys are able to guide us, in which extent it ends up saving you guys money, your company money in the long run. Fires are very destructive, and insurance covers, you know, everybody thinks, well, I have insurance, but you have to read those fine details to see what it actually covers. And there's where the problem begins. As an arson investigator, I found it very quickly that insurance companies, you know, they're in business just to make money, not give it all out. And so if there's not a lot of catastrophic events, then they're in business really well. But if there does occur a large catastrophic event, what do you guys do as far as a plan? Now I'm going to talk to you about it because there's the federal government comes into this as well on a widespread catastrophic event. Now, question you want to lock on your head, and we'll give the answer later as I conclude. The first question you want to ask, what's the most important thing you should do in a disaster? Okay? That question, just lock it away. We'll get back to it. So tell me really quickly, what are some of your challenges or issues? I mean, they're usually called issues. I like to always call them as challenges. Because a challenge we can always deal with. Okay, so this is an interactive group too. You have to know my background. I come out of East LA, brown child. I gotta be honest with you, you get out of there with your wits. So I am proud to say I'm a product of the Los Angeles area, but as you know, I reside in Salt Lake. It's a beautiful place. I love to ski, and I want you guys to just be interactive. That's just me. Yes?
Well, we had a weird one in Emory County last year. We had 450 bats come in our building. It took about 3 months to get them all out.
How did you even mitigate that? That would be incredible. It wasn't around Halloween, was it?
No, but we caught them in fish nets with both fishing nets and let them go back outside. First we didn't know if there was danger.
And that's just not a normal day operation.
No, I mean, it's, yeah, they were flying in the faces of the secretary. So we basically had to cancel the building for a while and quarantine it, and then the bats wouldn't come out. They got locked inside and different walls, cavities.
So
Horrific is one of the best way to say it.
really hard to plan for that.
Yeah.
That's one of those
Well, it's a
exceptions.
natural disaster.
Yes, yes it is.
Because they're,
Natural event.
all kinds of animals are changing their natural patterns because of what's called global warming or actually,
Right.
the way you look at it.
Well, the development of their areas that they normally range in changes everything too. You see a lot of animals now in the city where you would have never saw. Okay, so that's one challenge. What about another challenge? Do you guys have another challenge? Don't say administration. That's not fair. Okay, I'll say administration. Most of them are economic issues. Then you just can't make the building the way you absolutely want. So what's the next best thing? Safety? Are you guys part of a safety group? Do you have a safety officer that's with them? Work with me, come on. Do you guys feel that that's part of it? Maintenance, you know, is kind of like being the engineer on a fire truck. It's such a great job. You drive through the streets, siren going. You have to know how to operate that truck and pump those 1,500 gallons in a minute. And you get to the scene, you set everything up, you get water to the guys on the fire hose, you get the ladders off and everything, and then after that, it's okay. You gotta maintain these dials and gauges, and that's what you end up doing. So your job, though, is very, very critical to the success of the overall operation. That's my point. So issues and challenges, you have natural disasters, and those can include animals, wildlife of that type. We have a catastrophic event in this valley. They've done some projections and models. I came from California. How many remember January 17th, 1994? Perfect. One big hand in the back.
I had to go work there.
You happen to work in?
Well, I was working for Farmers Insurance, and they put me on a CAT team to go down and handle the claims.
Perfect. It was a Northridge earthquake. In that earthquake, do you know the cost of that earthquake was $20 billion worth of damage? There were 58 people that passed away. Over 16,000 were injured, and 1,500 went to the hospitals. Now you're wondering probably why this has any correlation to it. But if they're planning on a big event here in the valley, and they've looked at it, analyzed it to see where the freeways would buckle, what bridges would go down, and here's something that has to be a part of an EOP. Anybody know what that acronym stands for? Government's great with the acronyms. Look at this one. Got a chance. You did awesome. Okay, what's an IEP?
Emergency action plan.
It's an action plan. What did you work for? This guy. You got to keep me in line. Okay. What rank are you? Okay, so we've been even. I was a battalion chief. That was the highest range I made. But captain, we're okay. So, respect to you, captain. All right. So, with that IEP, which is an incident action plan, an emergency operations plan, you can't answer. Does your facility have a place to run an EOC? Yeah, and it can be just a room like this. It's an emergency operations center. So what happens is first you have to start somewhere. This is the hardest and most critical part, is putting together a plan that's going to help facilitate your facility to operate. And it depends on how much people you have, day in, day out product consumption. You have inline product that gets used at your facility and sent back out. There are a lot of components that need to go into the thought process of developing an emergency operations plan. So that's the big plan you want to start putting together. It's very tailored, very unique to your specific discipline. And it will change. It should be a plan that's flexible. Now you have to have buy-in from your administrators. Remember, they're always in charge. I always tell the mayors that you're still in charge, but you have the best and easiest job. And they go, why is that? Because if you turn to your police, fire, and your public works directors, let them do what they do best. All you do is sit back. You're going to go in front of a camera. You're going to tell them, this is our plan and this is what we're doing right now. Everybody gets we have limits, okay? But everybody doesn't want to see an administrator step up there and go, well, we don't know what we're doing. Grab a plan. It's kind of an instruction guidebook to navigate your operations to get everything back online. Now keep in mind, in a disaster, things are not normal. You might get half your crew in, half your crew will be stuck at work, half your crew will be stuck at the outer line areas. They won't be able to get in. How many in here are religiously cross-trained? Or are you just the main guy? Okay, so something you might want to address. If you're on your vacation for the first time in 20 years in the Caribbean, and the earthquake hits back here, and somebody behind back here take over your spot for a second. I know you have a very valued position. but it's very good to share information and share knowledge, because that way you want to, overall, the business wants to have survivability rate. I want to make sure that this business is going to survive, roll with minimal shortcomings or stoppages, and get back up and running. Welfare for your family. You've got to make sure you focus on your family and your employees. Those are your best commodity you have within your organizations. I know you might be thinking, wow, this is pretty weird, but think about it. We have a company, $1 billion company you might have, but it's the employees that get that thing done every single day in and day out, no matter what position you have in there. You are an important element and a very important component of the operation of that place. And you have to be flexible, because who could write in an ELP that we would have wildlife entering in and tying up our building for quite some time before you get it out? Do you know it took 6 months to get Northridge utilities back up and running to 10 million people? That is a lot. That is huge. There's not 10 million in our state. I think there's only 3 million in our state.
2.9.
Okay, and I grew up in LA, so 10 million, I know what 10 million looks like. So, and this is a rural valley as far as where I came from. This is nice. This is an oasis. So, with that in mind, make sure when you're putting this plan together, hold down the components that are specific to you. And I'm going to save the day, because I put my cards in the back table, and if you send me an email and reference this conference, I will send you some templates that will help you get started. Make sure, and I'm from the government, you can take anything I give you, it's okay to steal. You guys are supposed to lie. Okay, it's okay to use the information to get you started on your own emergency operation plan. Your facility, it can be 1 page. It doesn't have to be 30 pages long. It just needs to be a starting point. What you're going to do, who you're going to contact, what are the emergency numbers, how do you guys get a hold of your employees to notify them? How many of you here like social media? Okay, and it's a limited, it's a mixed group. I was forced to do it. I'm from that generation that's like, it's just one more thing that I could probably get in trouble on. So anyway, yeah, you never want to be too politically correct on, that tweet or Twitter and stuff like that. It's surprising how many people read that. I can just tell you through an experience I made 50,000 followers in an instantaneous moment. Anyway, my wife did appreciate it. So my point is that use social media. Tap the young college kids that just come out of college. They are technically savvy, and so they are a lot smarter than a lot of IT people that are hired to maintain things. These kids know how to navigate computers and Twitter and your emails and Google, all that really well. Point. Let's develop in part of your emergency operation plan, how do you notify everybody of what's going on at your facility? It's really easy to tweet out, this is such and such facility, we are up and running, take these roads to get in, everybody's fine, nobody's hurt. It should be a family operation. Do you guys feel that your operation's a family operation? I know I'm sappy, I'm an idealist. I'll go to my grave being like that. It's just, I don't know why I'm blessed like that. I just have that component within me. I have good friends such as Urban Meyer, some of those guys that just generate that energy. I can't even get into a room with them. There's so much energy going on. I get in and he gets in. But the motivation behind this is take care of your employees, notify them, send communication up, send communication down. With the HIPAA rules that are out there, you have to be cognizant if people have diabetes or any kind of problems, claustrophobics, any of that stuff. You have to account for some type of a medical issue within your EOP, your emergency operations plan. Because when the whole world kind of shuts down, guess what? Now we're kind of on an island for a while. Now how do we take this island and maintain this until things get back up and running? It is going to take DOT quite some time to inspect all those bridges up and down the Wasatch Front to make sure and guarantee that they are going to be safe to drive over. Who do you think is going to be the first ones to get to drive over? Ideas? Thoughts? Emergency operations, for sure. You're going to have military. You're going to have food. That's going to be important. You're going to have distribution points. You're also going to have your fuel. In New Jersey, do you recall when the power went out? First thing that everybody was running to is get more fuel for their car, and they couldn't pump that fuel because the electricity was out. They had no way of getting the fuel out. And quite ironic, and most gas stations don't have a backup generator to operate that. And I would say some of the pre-90 state centers, they don't have backup generators either. I'm noticing more on certain areas that they're putting them in. But a lot of the game plan was to go to the local stake center, but that functional until night falls. Then because you have to think of the sheltering part. Now, EOP, I don't want to digress over here, but when you get to that emergency, put that element in there. What do we do with the employees? How do we notify them? Then, once you get the notification in, have you guys ever heard of the word or the term operational periods? Okay, operational periods are when you normally go to work, you work 10-hour days or 8-hour days or 12-hour days? Give me some help. Eight. Okay, so 8. So if you do the math, and I'm not the best at math, but if you multiply that up, and are you guys 24-hour operations or 12? Okay, so 24, okay. So you've got to look at incrementally how long that operation is going to go. Another thing you have to look at is you can't ask employees legally to work for free, but you have to keep your company up. You know, they have to pay house payments and car payments and eat just like the rest of us. So you have to come up with a contingent plan to address that in your EOP. It's not as much to get boggled up on. Remember, this is a flexible working plan that you guys are putting together. In case a disaster occurs, you're going to be able to pull out this plan that's been approved by your administration or your corporate office and say, this is what we're going to do if an emergency should occur. Then, off that, it gets better, guys. You're going to make an IAP, which is an incident operations plan, which you will tailor. You'll tailor it to specific. You're going to have to, how many here have a committee, like a safety committee within your group? Okay. LDS Church is really wired up. I love those guys. I mean, seriously, if they only could shoot rifles straight, we would have the best army in the world. Point. You guys put together a committee. Make it up from some of the different entities or direct sections, sections within your company. Put them together. Now, facilities maintenance is the most important spot in the whole building because it's the operational, it's behind the curtain type scene. Put together the element. If it's an earthquake, this is what we're going to do. If it is a flood, you're going to do different procedures. If it's a fire, you guys are going to refer to this. But sit down in a committee group first and discuss all the possibilities, the bats included. Then try and see how many of those you can pull together and combine. If you combine them, then you'll notice that, boy, a lot of them are duplication. Like earthquake, we do the same thing in an earthquake as we do in a flood or a tornado or something of that nature. Don't laugh because we've already had one. I thought I was safe enough living here. I've only visited the Midwest. I don't think I ever lived there. Make sure you have a component for that. Because the more prepared you are, and I'll tell you where we're going with this once I get there. The IAP will just be a small little section that will say, if in this disaster occurs, we're going to go ahead and set this up. So then you go back into your emergency operation plan and you start addressing all your issues, your challenges. You're going to address how do we protect our building? How do we get our building back up and running as best to 100% as we possibly can? What is it that we're going to have to take and use outside the box thinking? Do not think it's more money to throw at it. See how creative you can get by doing this without spending more of the company's money. A lot of times it's just re-educating of how you do business normally without the power and how long can you sustain that. It's very critical, the power nowadays. It's so fun when my cell phone finally dies. I was just like, great, I don't have a charger. This is perfect. I look forward to that because then nobody can get home. Okay, essential services. What is it that you need to have come in? and what do you need to provide? I was talking to, anybody here from like a water company or sewer company, anybody? Okay, I attend a lot of local emergency planning committee meetings every month. I have 7 just in my region alone. And what's fascinating is the guys that work in the sewer or water district, I didn't realize that is a very valuable commodity for us, because they have to have so much chemicals, thousands and thousands of gallons delivered every single day that has to be a part of the process. He said that they can't throw a stop switch. They have to always keep working and moving forward, which requires all that. So if the roads are compromised, they're compromised, because a lot of the places they're located, they can't store very much. They can get through maybe 72 hours, and they're done. And they consume so many chemicals to operate our sewer systems, that's very dangerous in health-wise to do that. So look back at your companies. What do you have to have on a daily basis coming in to operate at full capacity? And then you can start trimming it down. Can we get by for 72 hours, 24 hours? There's a little science to this. Okay, recovery. What do we do to recover from this? Have you guys ever put that out as far as a thought? How do we recover? Your facility, say your people are trapped, can't get out of it, you have half your staff there working, can you use your facility as kind of a temporary shelter for a while? I know the first phone call should be, if you're at work and an earthquake hits, it should be your family resiliency plan or your family communication plan. Everybody in your household, disasters, I don't know about you, but they never happen after I get done with the dishes and I go and sit down in the living room and I'm like, what's going to happen the next hour? It always happens at the worst time. So if you're at work, spouse is at work, kids are at school, what happens when a disaster hits? How does everybody communicate with one another? You want to make sure that you have an out of area or out of state's the best area to check in, to report, and say, hey, this is so-and-so family, and we're okay, we're at school, they're letting us go home, we're going to the family meeting place. Now, if the Taliban is listening, they're not going to know where your family meeting place is. But all the kids, mom and dad all know that. You know where that is? Probably it's just if the house is intact, it's just in your living room. We're going back to the family meeting place. But nobody knows that. I brought for you guys today some communication card and also some top 10 things to do if you're on a budget. Everybody's on a budget. I know rich people that are on a budget. But the communications plan is really neat because you put out some information on it. Use generalization terms. Go to the family meeting place. Have the out-of-state phone number, grandma's house in California, and then put another number on there. Remember, you're going to cut that card out and put it in your kid's backpack. You're going to carry one on you. I have mine tucked away in my ID here, because there's a lot of numbers I can't remember, and if my phone goes down, I have still the numbers I need to get to. But the purpose of calling out of state is the local area has so many designated lines that will be open. When the tornado hit, that place was just run over in seconds. Over 200,000 calls went in. And a lot of times people are just checking in with their spouse. Saw a tornado hit downtown, are you okay? That's not unrealistic to think. But all the lines are compromised really instantaneously. So if you call outside, what happens is the outside lines going out of state. This is how come the news can always get a question inbound to us. And you always wonder, how does New York get their line through? I can't call across the street. They have those outside designated lines, and there is a large band of them. So if you just tell your family members to call to the outside area, check in, say, hey, we're good, we're going to the family meeting place, get off the phone. You check in, hey, has anybody checked in yet? Yes, your kids have checked in, still waiting for your wife. Then you know you have just that one last call left to make. Then she calls in. Try first calling the line like you would normally, but if it goes to the busy signal or a dead signal, then go ahead and do the action plan. See, there's an emergency operations plan right there for you. Incorporate that, guys, into your EOP, your emergency operation plan. I'm getting to this is like the buildup of why this is all important. As an arson investigator, when we did investigate fires. Is there any insurance guys in here? Except, now you just disagree with me if I'm way off, okay, way off the truth. But as an investigator, I would write an extensive report on what I observed, how scientifically I investigated this fire, what I determined the cause, if I thought it was suspicious, if it was accidental. I would go through, that was about a 4 or 5 page document. Submitted to insurance company before they would usually pay out to the homeowner. They would get a hold of my report to evaluate to see if there were some violations in there. Because if there's some preventative things, they might not be on the hook for the full face value of that policy. Now, let's jump over to our businesses. When you're talking millions of dollars, you're talking the same kind of scrutiny that are going to ask. Did these things get taken care of, or could they have been prevented? Now, this, I just add that only as a caveat because you should be aware of that because that could happen, possibility, hopefully it won't. But make sure your emergency operations plan, you pull that out. Here's my plan, and here's our incident action plan, but the emergency operations plan is the most important because when you bring that out, companies are going to say, well, they're trying to prepare for everything. And every event's different. So it's not like you're going to have 10 people here and 20 off. You're going to look at your plan. Insurance company's going to say, you know what, they at least made an attempt to do some prevention work here, so that's good. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
That if they're proactive in that sense? Here's FEMA comes along. We've got a statewide disaster declared. And this is how this works. City has a disaster, or even a business has a disaster. They reach out to the city, say, hey, can we have some help? Most cities will respond with public works, infrastructure type things. Then the city, once it exhausts its threshold of emergency funds, then they reach out to the county. And the county, once they have thrown everything they can possibly throw in, they reach to the state. The state, after they've done all theirs, or thrown in all the resources, then they reach to FEMA, to the region basically, and then out to FEMA. Our governor will send a declaration to Washington, D.C., to the president actually, and say, look, we've been hit with this catastrophic event, earthquake, we've got this much damage, we're going to need some federal assistance. Okay, now spin it back forward. A lot of people don't know that FEMA provides opportunities for small business, low interest loans to help businesses get back up and running. They also offer some grants depending upon the, I don't like to use the word value or importance, but it's how you integrate with the whole operation of the public. So if your component is really a large element, like a water district or a power district, they would be grant money, which, I don't know, how many in here went to college? Or you could, yeah, grants are good. Because grants you don't pay back. I was always looking for the G word. So when you think of it, there's grant and low interest business loans that you can put in along with your insurance to try and get back up and running. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Okay. Get the acknowledgement for the expert back there. Okay, so question. If you feel overwhelmed, you should, because it's a lot of data that I've thrown to you and a lot of stretching right now. But what I would tell you is simply pick up my card, that's the starting point. Second, develop an emergency operations plan of how this facility is going to operate if there should be an emergency. It could be just a daily emergency, but in a catastrophic event, we're going to go to our plan. Make sure your administrators are on board with it. They don't lose any power, but that opens the door next for an emergency operations center and incident command and how to basically operate through an emergency. You guys, everybody watches the news, right? Do you ever see anything favorable about people's in business, that's reported initially? Okay, there are a few good warm and fuzzy stories, but in my opinion, there isn't a lot. How many in here have a designated public information officer? Okay, one. You need to have somebody that has been trained, free, through the state on how to talk to the media. The media is a really important tool within our daily lives. opinion, don't care how cute she is or how good looking he is, you can't say a thing because they might not be filming, but that recorder's still on. I was a public information officer for 9 years. I guarantee I learned a lot my first month as a fireman. Tape don't lie. Yeah, that's the way it is. But what they'll do is use that kind of to get a shaded view on your company. And you don't want that. So remember, after you become Joe Citizen, when you clock off, yeah, you can talk to them. It's no big deal. It's not taking anybody's rights away. Just remember, we're all here in America. We're all Americans. We're all on the same team, hopefully. And we are, we're in the business, private sector, public sector. I feel just part of your lives as much as you feel a part of mine. I just have a different responsibility to go out and initiate with everybody. So, Utah Shakeout. They've had the Shakeout a couple of years now. I think this is a second year? Third. Okay, how many in here have signed up personally and your companies? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. I'm encouraging you to go to UtahShakeout.gov website, sign up. It's very generic. You're just going to put your name and stuff in, create kind of an account. We have about 400,000 people. Our goal is 1 million. That would be almost like a third of our population in the state. All it is drop, cover, and hold. Make sure you have a family plan. If you go to the Be Ready Utah website, or Be Prepared website, they've got all the answers you'll ever come up with on what to do there. And you can print your own copies. You can take so much information back to your family, your church, your faith. Take it back to your business. Get it organized. Now, if you take it important, everybody around you will take it serious, okay? You can't be too lackadaisical. You have to get, private sector is really interesting because it's as government or corporate as you might think. It's just you guys don't have to wear suits every day. You guys have to understand that importance or that shine. I know people accuse the government of regulating, but you have to have some guidelines and some rules to operate and keep the momentum going forward. So I'm going to encourage you to get onto that website, sign up, get yourself established, and then when you go back to your work, you guys, I would suggest you get some battle rhythm going. Get an emergency operations plan started out. Start writing one out. You can scratch one out on a piece of paper right now just to get some ideas, functional ideas, and then turn it over to your administration to kind of look at, type it out, send it out there. I know my limitations and my shortfalls. So when interns come on board, I kind of nonchalantly interrogate them, find out what their specialty is, because I'll come back to those guys later on as I'm operating and say, oh, by the way, I heard you wrote this great paper that was published. You mind looking at this? If you don't interact with your employees and find out more about them, you'll never know what kind of resources you have hidden within your whole employee pool. Trust me, reach out, reach back, build a really operational plan that's flexible, it's not an SOP and it's not an SOG. It is a flexible plan to use during an operation of an emergency. So, my question, I'm almost hitting the mark, I promise you. This guy's back here panning off to run along. I'm just teasing about that. Okay, question. What is the most important thing you can do during a disaster? I'm talking about all.
Follow your plan.
That's right. Use your plan. Go to your plan. Pull your plan out and use it. That's the most important thing you can do. Question?
Get normal operations back up and running.
That's right. What's the most important commodity within your organization? According to Jesse.
People.
That's right. It's you guys. You guys are the most valuable thing out there. Think of a famous football coach like Urban Meyer could go out and win the game by himself. He gets murdered by those 350-pound behemoths. You've got to coach people up, get them into excitement, and go through this. Because at the end of the day, we have to get our paychecks, right? So we have to keep this business running. That is our goal, okay? So put together something, start now. I know it seems overwhelming, might think a little differently. I am always available, my card. If you get my voicemail, it just means I'm in a meeting. I return every phone call I get, every text I get. I don't do Twitter anymore because I've been punished, and so I don't have a Twitter account, so I can't do that one. But I would tell you my email's on there. If you just send, hey, so-and-so, and I was at the UCIP conference, I will send you templates. They're perfectly legal. They'll come to you guys, and you can use them as a starting point. Captain, do I have anything more to put on? Okay. Questions back here?
One question, one comment.
Not a problem.
Question. Is there times when the governor, we can see it from the bottom up, but is there times when the governor would come in and take charge? In states that had problems where the governor took charge and other entities were all at each other because the governor was taking charge. You know what I'm saying? In huge disasters, and so everybody's blaming each other. What would be some of the scenarios, or what could be some of the scenarios where the governor?
I would tell you, it's been a privilege to work with Gary Herbert and also Huntsman, and I would tell you that they're always in charge. You know, this is their state, they've been commissioned to look over. But with that, they respect the people that are out there and a lot of confidence in the people they've surrounded themselves to do their job. A lot of times they come to the scene more for comfort to the voters of the state to say, hey, the governor's here, not off golfing somewhere. He's there to comfort. He is a figurehead. As far as command decisions, he will take the advice of the people he's an administrator over. Kind of like the LDS church.
Well, that's what my comment was going to be too, along that line, but also involve the sheriff's office. When they come in, they ain't gonna take anybody's gun. They're gonna do the sheriff's office stuff.
No, because they have a gun. They're
Yeah,
in
you wanna
charge.
argue with me, they'll show you.
Yeah, you know what, a bullet travels faster than an axe, so firemen get that.
Yeah, so the police are gonna be in charge for a lot of things, but then the churches too, whenever you see natural disaster, the churches are the ones that come in,
Oh,
and they're the comfort.
you guys don't market
Stay.
yourself.
And the churches also, in the LDS church, they put out flyers for membership, put down their resources, their tractors, their generators, all those things, so the police and everybody will know.
Correct.
So we have all those resources.
And in an emergency, they have a county emergency manager, which in my region, I work directly with those guys to support them. And a lot of times, they're county sheriffs, they're city police, fire, a lot of public works directors. I work directly with them. Now, to understand in a disaster, and if I've understood your question, yeah, law enforcement will overall have the security issue, so they do take control of the whole city. Until FEMA arrives, then FEMA takes over, but they still have the county sheriff, the local sheriff, in charge of everything. That's pretty much to keep law and order. They have such a difficult job, I wouldn't even want to.
And I have one also other question too, because I work with the sheriff's office a lot. Do they have is that my time up now?
25 more seconds.
Okay, maybe that's a quick. Does the state have a thing for, are they creating a special phone thing for police? I heard
A phone?
the phone lines for police. In our area, the police, when they went to do calls, because of traffic went down for the power cut or whatever, everybody got on the phone, and it made it very difficult for police to do the work, because it's lines were tight.
Well, to answer your question, I hope this answers it. The state actually, they use sat phones from those corners of the world. And I saw people from Duchesne County, is there Cache here too? But I did see Duchesne, or was I just imagining? Okay. The further out you get, communications becomes more of a challenge. They have satellite phones that they use to communicate into their emergency management and then in to the state. So it goes from the county, that's how the comms are set up, right into the county EM first, and then they zero it into us. And that's ongoing all year long. We're always improving that, just in the mere chance that we do have a disaster.
So a lot of these guys take NIMS, and then that gives you how your command system works. in the government.
Absolutely.
Very good.
Start with your EOP, but yes, it's gonna evolve.
Yeah.
It's gonna evolve, and understanding that command system will answer a lot of your questions of how everything operates. The only reason they have that structure is to operate smooth. And if you think about your own operation, you have a CEO, well, he's like the incident commander, basically. And then it branches down to operations, logistics. You have the finance people, that usually could be in human resource, and your planning area. So it branches down, but it's all meant as a structure to organize and roll forward, because, you know, everybody sometimes gets, what do we do? Where do we start? And at that point, you have to have a game plan to work with and go forward with. Good information. Yes?
Am I hearing this right? Nobody in all these counties don't have an emergency setup?
No, I'm just here as an enhancement to what is
But
already
do they?
existing according to
Has
my.
everybody got something implemented down?
Yeah.
Sheriff's office.
Pretty much?
That's that.
And you're from?
Weaver County?
We
We've had
Beaver County Firemen, I love that.
Yeah.
You have the advantage of having Lance Peterson, which is a very
Yes.
proactive individual, and so he is so light years ahead of everything. He is very complete. Questions? Smiles? It's almost lunch, guys. The blood sugar's gonna come back up. Anything? Did you guys have anything I didn't, address? Do you guys have any rumors that I can dispel before it festers into facts? Don't look at Twitter. I think it's a very, very functional social media, but it just doesn't work with Jesse. Okay. Anything else? Utilize what you have, guys, and at the end of the day, let's put something together on paper, guys, and don't let this fall on the ground. Pick it up, go back. You have a very, very important job, whether you get a lot of recognition or not. Trust me, there's a fireman in the middle of the night when it's raining that appreciates you coming there and opening things up and getting things back on, because we don't know all the nuances of your facility. We have to depend on you to be that technical advisor. Guys, thanks so much, and know that you live in a great state. I just want you to coming from California, you notice, and I will. Thanks, guys.